that it's very hard to list just few of them, but I think that the most important difficulty is that I think first of all the e-commerce is very competitive industry, and with like numerous businesses competing for customers' attention and market share. So it's challenging for the brands to stand out and simply attract buyers, especially when there are similar products and services readily available. Secondly, e-commerce is a fast-changing industry, and the industry rapidly evolves in the technologies, processes, in market trends. So in order to survive, you simply need to change, and you need to test new things, try different solutions, and you need to be agile and all the time adaptive, because otherwise you will simply not survive in this very, very extremely changing landscape. So yeah, I think that key to success is to be really up to date with best practices, market trends, and just be adaptive. Adjust your services, your processes, and technologies.
I believe you can name speed as one of the keywords, right? Like it's really important to be fast first and innovative somehow as well in this kind of world. This is a good question because it really depends on the maturity of the client, right? If the client is already longer within e-commerce, or if the client actually is a newbie. And if we're talking about the clients who are at the entry level, that is kind of the situation that you really have to guide them, teach them, show them certain things, because they're quite often still mainly focusing on the offline world. So you need to guide them how to take some advantages of the offline and just translate that into the online world, right? So it's really, as an agency, you have to be very careful on how to teach them, how to show them, and also recommend them as a start basic things. So like how to do the images, what images will convert very well, what titles to do, how to SEO optimize their description, what actually length of description should they create, right? Should it be rather longer or shorter, or how it depends also on the e-retailer's end, because they also have some limitations, some guidelines that we have to follow. So quite often such e-retailers or like such manufacturers are simply not aware about what you can do in e-commerce. If we are rather taking a look on the manufacturers that actually are longer already within e-commerce, so they are high level maturity clients on our end, at least as an agency, you can really start to think about way more complex things, right? This kind of type of clients are actually very into seeking into some innovations, being first at something. They're looking for all the latest capabilities on e-retailers, possibilities to do more activations, to test and learn things. So the ultimate goal in general, I would say, is indeed to kind of be first in something, show off that you're creative, that you're having a plan that others can follow. So like, for example, we had once a situation where Amazon was actually showing one of our creations in order to show other manufacturers how they could actually prepare their content, right? What is best in class, what is considered very good, what kind of works for the clients. So exactly such examples we are looking for with the high maturity level clients.
Yeah, agree, totally agree. That was very interesting when Amazon created this case study.
It was really fun, that's true, like, because it's always nice to see if you're praised for your creations, right? And you can be considered as exactly first in something, in doing something well.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Like definitely in the field of e-commerce, when it comes to like selling services, it's really sometimes tricky because it requires us to be really flexible and creative at the same time, because it's not just essential to find a creative solution for our client, but at the same time try to fit in within their budgets, which is not always easy. So it really requires from us to think outside the box, to test alternative options, to try different approaches, etc. So sometimes, to test solutions, also for some clients can be challenges, because they internally have very very, very difficult internal slow process of approvals, different things. So for example, it might requires a lot of stakeholders, or I don't know, extensive documentations, and how it usually looks. Someone can be out of office and there are no replacement, or we should wait for something. So yeah, this delay sometimes can just us block to test or to try new solution very quickly. What else? Sometimes we are, before starting a big project, we are trying different trials, like small ones, to test things, to see how it performs. But I need to also let you know that sometimes it's really cost effective, and it really requires some additional resources, to gather designers, copywriters, proofreaders, even everyone in place, and it's sometimes just not that easy thing. So what we can suggest in this situation, we sometimes exclude some maybe not that crucial elements from the scope of the projects, and we just focus on the more I must say crucial parts of the project. And yeah.
If I maybe may add on based on what you're saying, also it's important to remember that, depending on the market we are looking at, the budgets might be completely different, because, for example, the budgets for, I don't know, EMEA region might be way lower than actually for Western Europe, for example. So the services sometimes are being priced completely differently, and if not, then it's exactly the moment what you were saying about deducting from the scope, saying, okay, what is really the necessary part that I have to deliver to see some results? The difficulty in that case is that, sometimes it requires more than one element to be done to see some results. So, for example, if you're about to create images plus preparing a nice SEO optimized copy, right? And if you get rid of the images, you might not have the same result as if you would do both elements. But obviously, if the budget doesn't allow you to do more and test and learn, then exactly as Serena said, either deducting it completely or at least doing it on a trial part, because the difficulty is simply that sometimes the budget holder needs to kind of have at least some data to prove to other stakeholders that it's worth the effort and the cost to do this project on a bigger scale. So definitely it's one of the challenges, especially also markets, because as you can imagine, we're not always working with the market we are living in, right? So exactly, you have to adapt, you have to also sometimes see the situation. For example, I remember as well, when COVID hit in, right? There were huge budgets for marketing, for e-commerce, for everything. And then one kind of situation, one world's impact ruined everything, where budgets just got stopped and you had to adapt to the new reality. Of course, a lot of things were shifted to e-commerce, but as I mentioned also before, it was the entry level. We were not at the maturity that you can test and learn super exciting new projects, but rather start at the beginning, where you had to teach quite a lot of people on what actually you need for e-commerce. So if we're launching a new project, there are a lot of things that you can face. I don't know, Zoriana, do you want to kick off with a few of them?
Difficulties with the projects. I think that one of the difficulties is that sometimes it's really difficult to start a project when even the client from the beginning doesn't know exactly what they want. So it's really so they have some ideas, and they just have really limited deadlines for, let's say, doing such things. So for example, when we are starting to suggesting different options, different solutions, and we prepared a very nice proposal for them, but then we just realized that okay, the deadline was actually yesterday, and we simply will not be fit into this deadline. So okay, we just start doing everything from scratch and adjust to some of the our scope. So I think it's really usually very often happens.
I would just interrupt you for a second, because it should be done for yesterday. Really, almost every time the client doesn't share over email or something in deadline, and I'm asking him, can you maybe show me or tell me the deadline? And he's like, smiling and as soon as possible, you know. So like we already know it should be actually briefed potentially way earlier to us, but obviously like due to lack of resources or lack of time simply also on the client's end, it's sometimes really hard to even prepare the brief, because to make it proper you need some time to think what you need, what elements you want to get out of the project, what is the expected outcome. So really to make it as smooth as possible, you simply sit down and need a bit of spare time to prepare those kind of things, right? But for example, as also I believe Zoriana previously mentioned, you know, it's also about being flexible on what you kind of sell, right? So what kind of service you offer, because for example, we see also quite a lot this kind of challenge that, for example, the manufacturer got some content, so it has been produced by, for example, an agency. And the difficulty in the end is that actually the content is not fit to the guidelines of an e-retailer, which means, cool, you paid for something, you got something, but you cannot do nothing with it. You just have it. And then it's the moment of, oh my God, I invested in something that I cannot use right now. So what to do, right? So sometimes we also need to be flexible and saying, okay, great, you have like a base of something, but now let us help you to simply redo it or reuse it in the right way, so that you can indeed have a profit later on in the end out of what you produced. So it's quite challenging.
Yeah, or for example, when we, for example, deliver them the optimized content, and yeah, they are happy that they have it, but at the end, we just realize that they are struggling with the manpower. They simply don't have resources in-house to implement this content. So in this case, we like really need to push to follow up all the time, to like chase them. Hey, maybe we can help you somehow here. Maybe, you know, get access to your CMS tools or any other options how we can implement this content to have everything, you know.
It's sometimes funny actually, because you're offering so many solutions. Like, I don't know, as an agency, you can go even to the client, like in this case, the e-retailer, right? Where you say, okay, let me just implement it on your laptop. Like I can come to you, to whatever market you are in. I can just do it on your end. No, not necessary, but we don't have the manpower. Then you say, okay, then give me access to your system so I can just upload it for you. No, because we need approval in between, so it's not necessary, it's not manageable, we cannot do it this way. Then you say, all right, then simply implement it on your way. No timing, you know, we already have some content, because as mentioned also, I believe at the beginning, right, there are quite a lot focusing on new products where they don't have content at all. And when you share with them SEO optimized, great content, written examples, everything is perfect, they simply say, but we have already content, we don't need to overwrite it. You know, we don't need it, we don't have time, sorry, next time.
Yeah. Just to, maybe to add something, because sometimes they are focusing on the new launches more often, that, for example, for the older products, they're like, oh, okay, some of the products are already, you know, sold out, we already have some of the content, so maybe no need to do something extra, let's say, to the, like all the products, but yeah.
And also like a new trend that is quite visible, which causes kind of some difficulties or challenges also for the manufacturers, is the fact that, you know, everyone wants to rank amazing. And everyone is aware that Google is also changing the targets of what you need to deliver to rank high, etc. So one of the things is that they don't want to use generic content, which means that they are kind of forcing more or less from the manufacturer to share with them like specific content created in the wording that they actually want, or like, you know, in the tone of voice that they have in the shop. And as you can imagine, it's a problem on the budget end, because you have to produce way more, you have to involve a lot of people, it's quite time consuming. So it's really hard to make sure that every every e-retailer receives such a dedicated content. And in the end, very often such service is only delivered just for the top priority e-retailers that indeed brings in quite a lot of money for this manufacturer and are selling quite a lot of products, or at least where the relationship is so good that, for example, they allow them to A/B test or do something in return, kind of, right?
I think that this is something that I already mentioned, that in order to be on the top and to stay relevant and competitive, you simply need to be on top of everything, be up to date with the best practices, case study with market trends, to see what the competitors are doing, analyze, try new approaches. And this is the only one key, I would say, like really be very, very flexible and I think that the success is guaranteed. If you are not afraid of changes, challenges, trying new things, and yeah, I think you will.
Yeah, I believe in order to stay ahead of your competitors is actually exactly this openness towards things, right? Even if you feel like maybe it won't convert that well, kind of give it a try. Gather some data, right? Because then you can even discuss what can be done differently. Because if you never try, you might lose the moment. And also from my very personal perspective, sometimes it's even not worth to compare yourself to competitors, because then in the end you're just doing the same. You're just following instead of coming up with innovative ideas. So if you stop really just trying to follow, you might come up with the best possible solution that will make you the competitor for others. It depends, I believe, from which angle you're looking, because if you're there, like in e-commerce, there are so many parties involved, right? And it's also like from the clients and like from the manufacturer, I believe I would solve the issue of, for example, most of them don't know where they are selling what. So I would fix somehow the mapping of their own assortments. So they can just grab it and know, on Boots I'm selling this and here I'm selling that. If I look from the perspective of an agency, it also depends about which division we're saying, right? Because everyone is sitting somewhere else. So, for example, I know a lot about e-merchandising, right? So for the e-merchandisers, I believe like this difficulty of waiting for the things to get live. This is something that, exactly, I would try to have better partnerships with the e-retailers to make sure that it can be implemented faster, because the time of checking, chasing, please add, please update is sometimes so time consuming that could be actually taking to other, let's say, projects and other things that are more complex, more interesting, more testing and learning for everyone.
Yeah, just to add, maybe not always, for example, many tools, many different approaches may help. Sometimes less is more. So instead of having like hundreds of different tools and methods, it's really crucial maybe to focus on one solid approach that already worked before, for example, in a good way. And I don't know, just focus on one tool or one methodology, and it's be better than like a lot of different strategies in the same time.
I believe you hit a very good point, because actually quite often after working a while with the client that you get to know quite well, right? You know the processes in and out, you kind of, it's just a reality for you and a like great day to just work the same way every time. And people tend to forget that after a while working in a particular process, you sometimes need to take a step back, take a look from a different perspective and see, okay, does it still fit the current trends? Does it still fit the current goal, possibilities? Or maybe should we adapt something because we can speed it up, or maybe we can do it less complex as it was before. And we simply sometimes tend to not have time to do it, but like it's really good to block the time for it.